A vida é uns deveres que nós trouxemos para fazer em casa. Quando se vê, já são 6 horas a tempo. Quando se vê, já é sexta-feira. Quando se vê, passaram 60 anos. Agora é tarde demais para ser reprovado. E se me dessem um dia, uma outra oportunidade, eu nem olhava o relógio. Seguia sempre em frente. Iria jogando pelo caminho a casca dourada e inútil das horas.
Batidas na porta da frente, é o tempo. Eu bebo um pouquinho pra ter argumento. Mas fico sem jeito calado e ele ri. Ele zomba do quanto eu chorei, porque sabe passar eu não sei. Num dia azul de verão, sinto o vento e as folhas no meu coração. É o tempo. Recordo um amor que perdi. Ele ri. Diz que somos iguais, se eu notei. Pois não sabe ficar e eu também não sei. E gira em volta de mim, sussurra que apaga os caminhos, que amores terminam no escuro, sozinhos. Respondo que ele aprisiona, eu liberto. Que ele adormece as paixões, eu desperto. E o tempo se rói com inveja de mim. Me vigia querendo aprender como eu morro de amor pra tentar reviver. No fundo eu uma eterna criança que não soube amadurecer. Eu posso e ele não vai poder me esquecer. No fundo é uma eterna criança que não soube amadurecer. Eu posso, ele não vai poder me esquecer.
Muito bom dia a todas as pessoas que acompanham essa abertura do 25º Congresso Nacional da Associação Brasileira de Educação Musical. É difícil falar depois dessa homenagem, depois desse minuto de silêncio, por todas as perdas que tivemos ao longo desses últimos anos. Mas, dessa forma, nós gostaríamos de receber a todos, todas e todes com muito afeto, com muito carinho, e guardar na lembrança e fazer essa comemoração dos 30 anos da ABEM em homenagem a todas essas pessoas que partiram e mais todas as outras que não estiveram presentes aqui no nosso vídeo de abertura. Ainda assim, e apesar de todos os pesares, é com grande alegria e satisfação que nós acolhemos a cada uma e a cada um de vocês nesse evento tão importante para a área da educação musical no nosso país. A ABEM se entusiasma em realizar a 25ª edição desse evento, com um número expressivo de inscritos, de trabalhos submetidos, de trabalhos aprovados, de grupos de interesse especiais, o que renova as nossas forças e esperanças na luta constante pelos objetivos da associação, especialmente a luta por uma educação musical de qualidade para todas as brasileiras, para todos os brasileiros. Nesse ano de 2021, como todos sabem, celebramos os 30 anos de atividades ininterruptas da Associação Brasileira de Educação Musical. Ao longo dessas 3 décadas, esse coletivo de professores, pesquisadores, estudantes e instituições diversas participou ativamente da problematização, da reconstrução e da escrita da história da educação musical brasileira. Ao longo desse ano, em cada dia 30, nós pudemos nos reencontrar com algumas das pessoas que contribuíram para a escrita dessa história, refletindo sobre os caminhos que nós trilhamos até aqui. Nós recordamos os desafios do início, a construção e consolidação da nossa área, o tecer da história da associação. Nesses últimos 4 anos, em que eu tive a imensa honra de presidir a ABEM, junto com os membros da diretoria, que me acompanharam ao longo desses anos, nós pudemos sentir todos juntos a força dessa história, tecida a tantas mãos. Nós resistimos juntos a um período em que, lamentavelmente, instituições, governos e relações humanas foram levados ao limite. O conceito de normalidade foi colapsado, ainda que por agora o nosso instinto humano já tenha se adaptado preocupantemente a um novo estado de normal que nós precisamos ressignificar. Os presidentes que me antecederam conversaram sobre as ações que fizeram, juntamente com membros da sua diretoria. E eu deixei para falar brevemente sobre o período em que eu estive à frente da ABEM no dia de hoje. E esse período em que eu estive à frente da ABEM, pelo menos nesse último biênio, nós vivemos uma vida online. Nós estivemos separados e fizemos, junto com essa diretoria, o esforço muito grande para que, mesmo separados, estivéssemos juntos, mantendo o debate sobre a educação musical vivo, alerta sobre as demandas da contemporaneidade e mantendo aquilo que caracteriza a nossa associação, os laços de amizade, de respeito que nos unem. Como eu disse, é do instinto humano que a gente se adapte, mas a gente precisa ressignificar essa adaptação. Com o passar do tempo, as cifras, os números de pessoas que nos deixaram, que eram noticiados todos os dias nos diferentes jornais, na televisão, na internet, nos meios escritos, foi fazendo com que nós nos acostumássemos com o número de vidas ceifadas pela Covid-19. Aos poucos, parece que fomos criando uma barreira, cicatrizando, nos protegendo, nos acostumando com as tragédias humanas que assistimos. Nós fomos nos acostumando. A escritora Marina Colasanti, ela nos provoca com texto que eu vou me permitir ler alguns parágrafos para vocês, mas que diz muito daquilo que precisamos fazer. O título do texto dela é Eu sei que a gente se acostuma, mas não devia. São palavras dela. A gente se acostuma a morar em apartamentos de fundos e a não ter outra vista que não as janelas ao redor. E porque não tem vista, logo se acostuma a não olhar para fora. E porque não olha para fora, logo se acostuma a não abrir de todo as cortinas. E porque não abre as cortinas, logo se acostuma a acender mais cedo a luz. E à medida que se acostuma, esquece o sol, esquece o ar, esquece a amplidão. A gente se acostuma a abrir o jornal e a ler sobre a guerra. E aceitando a guerra, aceita os mortos. E que haja números para os mortos. E aceitando os números, aceita não acreditar nas negociações de paz. E não acreditando nas negociações de paz, aceita ler todo dia da guerra, dos números, da longa duração. A gente se acostuma à poluição, às salas fechadas de ar-condicionado e cheiro de cigarro, à luz artificial de ligeiro tremor, ao choque que os olhos levam na luz natural, as bactérias da água potável, a contaminação da água do mar, a lenta morte dos rios, se acostuma a não ouvir passarinho, a não ter galo de madrugada, a temer a hidrofobia dos cães, a não colher fruta no pé, a não ter sequer uma planta. A gente se acostuma a coisas demais para não sofrer. Em doses pequenas, tentando não perceber, vai afastando uma dor aqui, um ressentimento ali, uma revolta acolá. Se o cinema está cheio, a gente senta na primeira fila e torce um pouco o pescoço. Se a praia está contaminada, a gente molha só os pés e sua o resto do corpo. Se o trabalho está duro, a gente se consola pensando no fim de semana. E se no fim de semana não há muito o que fazer, a gente vai dormir cedo e ainda fica satisfeito, porque tem sempre sono atrasado. A gente se acostuma para não se ralar na aspereza, para preservar a pele. Se acostuma para evitar feridas, sangramentos, para esquivar-se da faca e da baioneta, para poupar o peito. A gente se acostuma para poupar a vida, que aos poucos se gasta e que gasta de tanto acostumar, se perde de si mesma. Esse texto da Marina Colasanti é de 1972 e me parece muito atual para pensarmos o que vai ser esse outro mundo de que fala o tema do nosso biênio. Nós nos reuniremos ao longo dessas 2 semanas, porque nós não queremos nos acostumar. Nós queremos sacudir a poeira dos conceitos de humanidade, de dignidade, de educação musical. Porque nós queremos olhar para esses 30 anos que se passaram, identificar êxitos, mas também os silêncios, os erros, os desvios. E que bom que nós podemos fazer isso juntos. Ainda não chegou a hora em que podemos nos abraçar e sentir na pele essa energia pulsante do coletivo que formamos. Aos poucos, nós vamos nos reencontrando com o mundo fora dessas telas. Definitivamente não é o mundo que nós deixamos no início do distanciamento social. E, em absoluto, ainda não é o mundo que precisamos e merecemos encontrar. São Tomás de Aquino, nas Pegadas de Santo Agostinho, ele ensinava que o mal não é uma coisa. O mal é a ausência de coisa. O mal é a ausência de um bem. Por exemplo, a cegueira em si não é uma coisa, é uma ausência de visão. E aí, pensando nesse conceito de São Tomás de Aquino, quais as ausências que têm marcado os nossos pensamentos e as nossas ações como seres humanos de forma mais ampla e como professores de música de maneira mais específica? Que ausências nós temos sido nas nossas comunidades, nos nossos coletivos, na ABEM? E que presença nós queremos ser? A ausência de dor é, de certa forma, também um mal. Nós nos anestesiamos para fugir da dor. E essa não é a melhor saída, e pode ser bem danoso. O filósofo Byung-Chul Han, sul-coreano, ele nos fala de uma algofobia, uma angústia generalizada diante da dor. E a tolerância à dor acaba diminuindo rápida e drasticamente. Ele diz que a algofobia tem por consequência essa anestesia permanente. Toda condição dolorosa é evitada. Han afirma que a algofobia ela se prolonga no social. Conflitos e controvérsias que poderiam levar a confrontações dolorosas têm cada vez menos espaço. E a algofobia, também segundo o filósofo, se estende à política. A coação, a conformidade e a pressão por consenso crescem. A política se orienta numa zona paliativa e perde toda a vitalidade. A falta de alternativa é um analgésico político. Com as palavras do próprio Han, abre aspas, em vez de debater e lutar pelos melhores argumentos, entregamo-nos à compulsão por sistema. Uma pós-democracia se anuncia. Ela é uma democracia paliativa. Por isso, Chantal Mouffe demanda uma política agonística, que não evita confrontações dolorosas. A política paliativa não é capaz de visões ou reformas penetrantes. Ela prefere tomar analgésicos de curto efeito, que apenas aceleram disfunções e rejeições. A política paliativa não tem nenhuma coragem para a dor. Desse modo, o igual avança. Fecha aspas. Eu desejo que esse 25º Congresso Nacional da ABEM nos dê coragem para enfrentar a dor. E que possamos juntos evitar e rechaçar uma educação musical paliativa, que evita confrontações dolorosas. Nós precisamos, mais do que nunca, de enxergar a realidade como ela é e realizar reformas penetrantes para construir um outro mundo. Ainda com Han, ele nos diz que a dor é um rasgo, por meio do qual o inteiramente outro tem entrada. Palavras dele novamente, abre aspas. A consciência que não é capaz de estremecer é uma consciência coisificada. Ela é incapaz da experiência, pois é, em sua essência, a dor na qual o essencialmente ser outro doente que se desvela diante do habitual. Também a vida que recusa a dor é uma vida coisificada. Só o ser tocado pelo outro mantém a vida viva. Caso contrário, ela permanece presa no inferno do igual. Que todos nós, ao longo dessas 2 semanas, possamos juntos enfrentar a dor. E assim poder vislumbrar e fazer surgir um outro mundo desse mundo terrível habitual. A educação musical é arte, capaz de uma contranarrativa frente a essa ordem dominante. Que com a nossa música, com as nossas ações, nós possamos causar estranhamento, perturbar, transtornar e, sim, também doer. Que possamos acolher a dor de tantos outros, silenciados ao longo não somente desses 30 anos da ABEM, mas ao longo de toda a história da humanidade. Eu desejo, de todo o coração, que esse congresso nos faça presença nesse mundo em transformação, afastando, assim, o mal que nós não queremos ser. Então, para dar início às reflexões sobre o nosso biênio, nós convidamos o professor Graham Welch, que gravou uma apresentação. E em breve, ele estará aqui conosco para discutirmos e fazermos o debate e podemos conversar sobre as informações que ele nos traz. Para isso, antes, eu gostaria de começar fazendo a minha autodescrição. Eu sou um homem pardo, de cabelos curtos, estou usando óculos, atrás de mim tem uma rede, eu estou aqui no meu escritório, na minha casa, conversando com todos vocês. Aqui ao meu lado, a gente tem o intérprete de Libras, o Bruno, que vai fazer a audiodescrição dele para vocês. Bruno.
Bom dia. Eu sou o Bruno Amaral. Uso barba, um pouco grande. Tenho um cabelo grande em coque. Estou usando um headphone, uma blusa azul com botões. Ao meu fundo, eu tenho uma parede branca com uma porta e um armário. E sou intérprete de língua de sinais, para que vocês vejam para vocês.
Obrigado, Bruno. Então, o professor Graham acaba de entrar aqui na sala. Eu gostaria de convidá-lo para dar um bom dia antes de passarmos o vídeo dele. Good morning, Professor Graham.
Welcome.
It's a great honor having you here with us. We are really very, very happy to hear from you, from your experience in the world of music education and your experience as chair of many associations and as leader of a lot of research around the world. Be welcome, and we really want to have you here with us presentially in Brazil on the next time. People are watching us at the moment, and feel free to give your first words before we pass your video with the subtitles to everyone.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here and to be part of your special event. Well done to everybody involved.
Então, o professor agradeceu por estar aqui, disse que é uma alegria muito grande poder participar desse evento tão especial. Professor, now we are going to stream your video to people, and we'll be here at the backstage waiting for the moment of our discussions. Again, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Mário, então a gente pode iniciar a transmissão do vídeo do professor Welch. Por favor, fiquem à vontade para deixar as suas perguntas e os seus comentários aqui no chat, que após a transmissão do vídeo, em que foram incluídas legendas, a gente vai passar a discussão com o professor Graham Welch. Uma ótima conferência para todos e todas e todes.
It's a real pleasure to be involved in your 35th Congress, and I wish you every success as a national organization in Brazil. So today I want to talk to you about building a better world, the role of music and music education from my own particular perspective. The first thing that I'd like to focus on is that humans are musical by design. And you can see that this is evidenced initially as part of these images, which are from the Human Connectome project, HCP. And the point of this international project was to begin to map in much more detail what is going on inside the human brain, and particularly to try to trace some of the connections, interconnections, and wider pathways. You can see here illustrated in wonderful color. Earlier this year, Google provided an example of connections within the brain in a mapping activity. And in the center of this image here, in this kind of light blue triangle, is a single neuron. And they estimate that there are approximately 4,000 fibers that connect to this individual neuron. And when you think inside the human brain that we have millions and millions and billions of these, this begins to suggest some of the extraordinary internal complexity that we have in the way that we deal with the world every day. As part of the Human Connectome Project's remit, it's been looking at the way that different parts of the brain are dedicated to particular activities. So, for example, in these images, the auditory areas of the brain are indicated more in a kind of reddish color, which you can see either side of the two hemispheres here. Whereas the sensory and motor behavior, the things that controls our movements, such as when we're making music, are much more related to these green areas at the top of the brain. Visual areas are at the back of the brain, and visual association, like the images that we have, are either side of those blue areas. And the other colors are just relating to areas which are being switched on or off, depending on the nature of the musical or non-musical task. Now, in a very recent study, this is a study of the resting state of newborn babies and their neural networks. And you can see here at the moment of birth that looking at the two hemispheres, which is the top image, that those yellow and orangey elements are already demonstrating that there is a lateral division in terms of motor behavior. And if you look on the left-hand column, the fourth one down, the visual centers you can see are located at the back of the brain, and below them the auditory centers, which are already functioning in left and right hemisphere. You can see in that little image you've got a kind of areas that are lit up on both sides of the brain, as also you can see a little bit of a connection in the middle image between the two halves. And on the right-hand side are some of the other areas they've identified, such as related to motor behavior, and also as that visual association images already. So these are newborn babies, which is kind of quite extraordinary about how developed the brain is at the moment of birth. And in this next image from the Developing Human Connectome project, what you've got are two columns here. On the left-hand column, again, a series of images, but this time with a longitudinal perspective from 38 weeks to 39 weeks, 40 weeks, 41 and 42. And again, if you look down that list in the penultimate from the bottom on the left is the auditory development. And you can see how from 38 to 42 weeks, those areas of the brain involved in sound are gradually becoming more and more developed. And similarly, underneath them, the visual areas are also being developed. So these brand new images are just giving us a real sense of what's happening inside the womb in the way that as humans, we are developing these particular areas, which are going to be so crucial once we're born, in a way that we develop and manage the world and manage our survival and also our relationships with other people. This is another set of images, which is just looking at different networks within the brain that are activated when we listen to music. And again, you can see that depending on whether we're looking from the outside or through the middle, that there are different areas of the brain that are lit up. So for example, if you look at the middle images, both top and bottom, you can see that deep inside the brain, at the top of the brainstem, are these emotional centers. And these emotional centers are already lit up, responding to the ways that we make and experience music. And again, looking at the some images of both left and right, you can see how much both hemispheres are involved and how they're talking to each other with these corpus callosum, the bundle of fibers in the middle of the brain, which connects the two hemispheres. So that when we listen to music, these images are telling us that this is a whole brain activity as we make sense and experience music. You know, another new meta-analysis of 130 MRI studies, which is a technique for looking inside the brain. What they've teased out here is how different aspects of musical behavior are identified in particular areas. There will be overlaps, of course, but if you're just picking out the areas of the brain that are particularly interested in what we call musical perception, that gives you the set of the top three images. And as with the previous images, the hotter colors are telling you that you've got much more activity there. Then in terms of musical production, these are related, but again, slightly different. Again, left and right at different regions, different networks working together in order to produce music. And then when we are imagining, or when we're listening to music and experiencing music, then you can see that there are, in that bottom set of three, there are again different areas of the brain that are connected. So this is again yet another example of how musical we are as humans. That music, when we engage with music, it's a whole brain activity. This is an example of a series of images that have been put together by some colleagues in Scandinavia that relate to what happens to the brain when we're listening to a piece of music. And in this case, it's tango. And in the next image here, we can see that in different areas of the brain are picking up particular aspects. So the corpus callosum, as I said, is a bundle of fibers. That's the label on the top left, which connects two hemispheres. Motor cortex is involved in movement while we're dancing or playing an instrument. And the prefrontal cortex here is kind of controlling our behavior, expression, decision-making. It's kind of problem-solving area. And then we have emotional centers, such as the nucleus accumbens, the amygdala, and also the cerebellum. At the back of the brain, as I said, you've got the visual cortex, which is involved in reading music or having an image of particular musical experiences. The hippocampus is involved in musical memories, and the auditory cortex is where part of the brain that is focused on listening, making sense of sounds, perception, and also analyzing them. And at the top of the brain, again, we've got the sensory cortex, which controls feedback while we're playing an instrument or dancing. We also have in this particular slide two images. One on the left is a British rock star called Jarvis Crocker lying in a scanner, and he's just singing by himself. But in the right-hand image, he's then singing with someone else, with an accompanist playing the guitar. And in this activity, of course, if you're making music with someone else, you have to develop some kind of empathy, some kind of reciprocity in order to be in time with them. So you're both performing, but you're also listening. This tends to switch on, as you can see there, what you might call the social brain, that empathic area of the brain, which enables you to coordinate movements with someone else. So making music on your own or making music with other people can activate different areas of the brain. In terms of singing, you can see the study by Boris Kleber and colleagues Germany, that here you've got, looking at these three images, you've got left and right images being lit up. So you've got a bio of lyrics towards the left-hand side and some of those basic musical features on the right-hand side. In that middle image, you can also see that the corpus callosum is lit up because the two hemispheres are sending messages to each other. And at the bottom of each of those images on the left and the right, you can see little bits of red, and those are the emotional centers that are also being switched on as we make music. In this image, this is a jazz improvisation. Sorry, my own image is in the way of the wording. But you can see here that there's lots, again, of activity, real-time kind of problem solving going on at the front. As we're improvising, we are creating patterns, making sense of patterns, drawing on established patterns, which brings in motor behavior, listening on each side, visual imagery as well. And in this last image, you can see here that the young woman is being asked to move her feet, undertaking tango steps while she's being scanned. And this is just looking at the differences between movements with her feet, which are metric in time with something, compared with movements which aren't. So in these different art forms, the different ways of engaging with music and the arts are still integrating many different parts of the brain. So we can say, I think with some confidence, that the way that we are designed, our neuropsychobiological design, which has been called the human body-mind, relates to three particular systems. So the nervous system is how we're making sense of the world. At the moment, you're listening to me speaking in another language. My apologies for that. And my Portuguese is virtually non-existent. But you're trying to make sense of what I'm saying by the nervous system. At the same time, you're having feelings about that experience, and that relates to your endocrine system, which relates to your hormonal inner state. And your third integrated system is your immune system, which is keeping you alive and healthy and hopefully enabling you to survive this talk. These three systems, nervous, endocrine, immune, have been called the human body-mind and are particularly important when we're looking at the wider benefits of music, particularly the new research areas related to music and health. More of that later. So our first conclusion is that musical behaviors are multi-sited in the brain. Again, another image there that relates to expertise and musical improvisation, where the scientists have been looking at increased connection between certain areas of the brain. And the other thing then that we need to think about, of course, are whether there are wider benefits of music. So that if we're engaging in music successfully, we would hope that there are musical benefits, but we're also interested in the potential for wider benefits outside the field of music. And in this particular study, a group of young people were asked to listen to music and read a musical score, very simple musical score, if they were some musical background, or to read words. And you can see on the left, those two images there, that the musicians, those that have had some musical experience of reading musical notation, when they're showing musical notation, bits of the brain light up left and right. And also, and with you see that yellow line that I've drawn, that also relates pretty closely to their ability to make sense of words. So reading words, reading music relate to similar areas of the brain being switched on. Whereas the controls, who haven't had any formal musical experience and any musical experience of reading music, you can see when they're asked to look at music, which is on the left-hand side, lower image, that there's very little activation in the brain at all. Yet as soon as the same young people are asked to look at words, you can see as the controls in the bottom right, again, parts of their brain are being switched on, but still not in the same way as in the musicians. So when the musicians are reading words, which is the top right image, you can see that there are aspects, the prosodic features of language are being lit up on the right-hand side as well as on the left. So things to do with pitch, melody, intonation, timbre, in the way that someone is reading and hearing those words. For the musician, they're hearing musical features, even though they're reading silently. In another project I finished fairly recently, was undertaken in some primary schools in London. And in this particular project, an international singing group called Apollo 5, you can see their images of the 5 singers there, visited these primary schools and worked with the teachers and the children to support the children's singing, and also the teachers were non-specialists in their ability to actually teach singing when the experts weren't there. There were 63 children aged 5 and 6 that took part in this project. And what we discovered was that hopefully, as you might expect, that there were real improvements in the children's singing, but also at the same time, there were similar improvements in children's reading, and underneath my image of the bottom right-hand corner, are also improvements in executive function. And this is an ability in children to not be distracted, to be able to focus on something, to be able to detect patterns. So that the singing activity seemed to produce other benefits in these children. In a recent study, one of my colleagues at UCL, Daisy Fancourt, worked with a research colleague to produce an overview about the health and well-being benefits of music and also the other arts. And 2 main things emerged in this World Health Organization report that you can download for free. The first is that the music and the other arts are being used for prevention and promotion, to prevent ill health and also to promote positive good health, such as supporting child development, encouraging health-promoting behaviors, and supporting caregivers. Another main theme within the report relates to management and treatment of health challenges. So music and the arts can help people experiencing mental illness, and we've seen a lot of that recently with the pandemic, for example, the importance of music to people that are stuck at home on their own. The music and the arts can support care for people with acute medical conditions, help to support people with neurodevelopmental and neurological disorders, assist in the management of non-communicable diseases, and also support end-of-life care. So there's quite an extensive literature now, which is growing every day, on the wider benefits of music. In England, there's also been reports of how music has helped to school culture. So in this particular school in the north of England, in a very deprived, socially challenged area, this particular school has been transformed from being a failing school to being one of in the top 10% of schools in England in terms of their English and mathematics results. And the head teacher, that's the guy on the right there, it says that this is down to the school's decision to rebuild its curriculum around music. So every child has between 3 to 8 hours of music a week. Most of these children, as you can see from the images, they speak English as an additional language. And music is seen as active, multi-genre, and also includes Muslim musicians. The music teacher is the guy with the beard in the middle. And I've given you a link there on BBC News if you're interested in discovering more. What we can say as in conclusion is that if you engage in music successfully, you can get wider benefits. And I've itemized these, giving you some examples there. So you get neurological benefits, a strengthening of connections within the brain, integration of different areas, and also growth as well. There are physical benefits that relate to oxygenation. So the more you engage in music, the more likely you are to increase your blood flow, to get more oxygen through the effective lung function. And that was also keeping you more alert, the more oxygen you have in the blood. You get physical coordination, such as in learning to play an instrument or to sing. It can also help in rehabilitation if you've had some kind of physical trauma. And certainly with young children, as we know, it can help with their motor development. So as well as musical benefits, there are also psychological and emotional benefits, looking at the right-hand side. As I said, such as things to do with executive functions, psychological health, giving children a positive sense of identity and agency, some control in their lives. It can also help, as the ancient Greeks said thousands of years ago, that engaging in music and the arts can be a cathartic activity. It releases emotions and is good for mood regulation. Of course, there are going to be educational benefits, and we've got lots of data from the UK and also from Australia about preschool singing and music activities, helping children's reading and numeracy development by the age of 5 when they begin school. And also there's another group of studies that are looking at social bonding, fostering children's sense of social inclusion and the development of pro-social skills. Now, I've given you a few references there, but as with each of these slides, if you want to know more, then by all means get in touch, and I give my email at the end of this. So, how might we bring about positive change? And so I suggest, in the light of your current discussions, and also the discussions we're having elsewhere in the world, we need vision and we also need mission. So in terms of vision, what kind of world does ABEM wish to see? What's the organization's view of an ideal or better world? And with that, what kind of Brazil? Is your vision that everybody's musical potential is realized and that no one is left behind? Is it your vision that music and its wider benefits are recognized by everyone? These are policymakers in government or people in charge of schools or other organizations? Would you like to see music more central in school curricula? What about the wonderful variety of musical cultures you've got across all your different regions? Would it be wonderful in your vision for all of your children and young people and older to have access and understanding the experience and enjoy that wonderful variety of musical culture that you have? Then in terms of the mission relates to how do you achieve your vision? What are you going to do now? Now, one of the things you're interested in, I presume, is that you're interested in high quality music education in every phase of education. That's preschool, from birth to 5 or 6, or 7, primary, elementary schools, secondary school, certainly music education in your special schools. What about further and community education, as well as music in higher education and across the lifespan? And I presume that in order for this to be successful, you want to reach all what you call underserved communities at the moment, particularly those that are perhaps in urban environments, which are particularly challenging, or in rural environments where resources are very little. And then, of course, I assume that in order to bring about your vision, you want high quality music teacher education in every state. And you also want music education to be practiced. The actual way that we do it is informed by rigorous research. So the mission is for you to think about how you want to realize your vision. What is our vision? How do we get there? Well, that is our mission. And I was asked just to think about a couple of examples. So the first example I've got for you is SEMPRE, the Society for Education, Music and Psychology Research, for which I've been the chair now, I think, for more than a decade, I think. So the first conference that was organized back in 1972 in the west of London at Reading University. And this group of people got together and formed something that was called the Society for Research in the Psychology of Music and Music Education, SRPME. And it had its roots in psychology, and from that as a subset of music. In essence, there was lots of interest at that time in kind of musical assessment, how we kind of make sense of the world, how we assess musical behavior and development. And there was very little structured music education research in England and the rest of the UK until the 1970s. And then in 2002, about 20 years ago now, when I became chair of SEMPRE, we decided to create this new word, SEMPRE, because it was easier for us to remember than SRPMME. And also we wanted to put education more up front and for us not to be seen just as a group of people that were interested in music psychology research. We also wanted to see some impact. And as I can see there, my last bullet point next year is going to be SEMPRE's 50th anniversary in 2022. So originally there were up to 2 conferences a year located in Reading, to the West London, and another usually at Roehampton in Southwest London, where Desmond Sargent was the editor of Psychology of Music, where he was based. The Society's journal, Psychology of Music, was first published in 1973 with the intention of having 2 editions a year. Initially, and for many years, it was self-published. So the editor would collate all of these articles that be typed up, sent off to a private printer who would send them back, and then they'd have to be proofread, and then eventually we would have them printed into copies which had that cover. And then that would be sent out, usually from Roehampton, to all the various members. And although there was a focus within the Society on music psychology and music education, there was often concern expressed in the committee minutes and also by the editors that there were fewer education submissions compared with psychology of music submissions. And also editors such as John Sloboda, who was the second editor of Psychology of Music, was concerned that he was having to turn down articles that related to music education because they weren't as rigorous in their kind of research design as in the Psychology of Music. he was quite concerned about the development of the culture because of that. So here we are, 50 years on. So Sempre now has two kinds of conferences, those that they organize themselves and others that are in association with Sempre, such as giving support to ISME or ICFPC or other regional, national or international conferences. We now publish 3 journals, and we do this with Sage, a commercial publisher. So Psychology and Music is now 6 issues a year. Research Studies in Music Education is now 3 issues a year, a journal that we acquired about a decade ago. And more recently, back in 2018, we developed a new open access journal called Music and Science. So we hoped that by having these different types of journals that were reaching slightly different constituencies. We also now have a book series with Routledge, again as a commercial publisher, and so far we've got 38 titles in this series. I've just given you 3 images there of things which have been published recently. And we also have an awards program, and we give out funding for conferences, for conference organizers, but also for individuals to attend conferences. We make small research grants, and we also try to support parts of the world in which underserved communities have little or limited access to high quality music education. And I've given you a list there of some of the countries that have been involved over the last 5-10 years. Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Haiti, Brazil, a couple of projects, one in special education and another more recent one do with young children's musical development and social engagement. UK studies and also in sub-Saharan Africa, such as Kenya and Uganda. And since, sorry, again, my image is in the way of that last comment. Since 2004, 2005, we have made awards of nearly £1 million, 950,000 as of this summer, 2021. And we've made a lot of awards to commemorate our 50th anniversary. So we're looking forward to hearing about those and publishing those next year in 2022. The reason we've got that amount of money is because of the commercial arrangements with our publishers. So Sage, in particular, funds our work by selling our journals and selling individual articles, downloads across the world as bundles to universities or to individual memberships. They make money out of it, but they also give us some money as a charity, and we then use that money for our awards program. So that commercial partnership has been essential in enabling us to do all the things that we're now doing. I thought I'd also give you something about my experience as the president and longtime member of the International Society for Music Education. So one of the challenges that we had in my 6 years as president, incoming president, and then ex-president, was working out what ISME is for. What was our vision? What was our mission? And one of the things I particularly became concerned about in 2010, I think it was, is that we were organizing this kind of biennial conference every 2 years, which was wonderful to bring people together from around the world. But was that enough, given that the amount of development and support that's needed in many different countries, including Latin America, for example? And so in addition to the conference proceedings, and making those available online, as you know, around that time, started adding in regional conferences in the main non-conference years. And I've just given you 3 examples there, the images from the website of 3 examples of this year's regional conferences from South Asia, Asia Pacific, and on the right-hand side, the Latin American conference that was recently held in Mexico. But one of the things that I'm pleased that we've enabled to develop was special interest groups, as well as the existing commissions. The one that I've, as you know, been quite involved with is the Research Commission, which is the oldest commission special interest group, if you like. But having other special interest groups enabled people from across the world to feel that they could network with others that share their interests. And as you know, ISME's always been quite pleased with this instrumental forum. We've developed, over the years, new commercial partners, such as in the States now, Stage, and in order to create a more comprehensive ISME Awards program. The main journal, the International Journal of Music Education, has been updated, expanded in terms of the number of issues and sharpening its focus. Another thing that I was quite pleased about was the development of a new Spanish language music education research practice journal. And as you know, if you check the website, ISME has also very recently started its own book series as well. So you can see that each biennium, there's a group of people which get together whose job it is to, under a president, steer the International Society for Music Education. They now regularly, fortunately, create a strategic plan, a strategic vision. They create success indicators. How do we know that we are being successful in achieving our vision? How do we know that our mission is working? Well, we need success indicators. Lastly, I thought I'd give you some personal leadership experiences in higher education, my higher education, over the last 30 years. So for a number of years, I worked at Roehampton University, as it's now called, in the Faculty of Education. And I was Dean of Education, then Director of Educational Research. One of the things I had to do within this faculty that was very teacher education focused, but we tend not to do any research or writing, was that we created, building on my previous colleague, a whole series of research and publications, and a book series that were both academic for other lecturers, but also for people working in schools. We linked research to teacher education development, so our programs became much more focused on using research to develop our teaching. I managed to get some money out of the government, and I gave every member of faculty a laptop. I can remember at the time how exciting that was. Everybody could actually have something they could carry around and work on. We also helped set up the first MA in Music Education in Portugal, in Viana do Castelo. We also set up an MA in Art Education at the same time. And if you go to Portugal now, then at least half a dozen master's degrees in music education. But I'm quite pleased that when I was at Roehampton, we enabled them to set up their own, which was jointly taught by people from the Polytechnic Institute and from colleagues from Roehampton. I also, as Dean, managed to get some funding to set up a special PhD program to bring in music education and music psychology academics in Argentina, from Argentina, to register at Roehampton, and provided them with some support from other colleagues around the ecosystem. And one of the other things we managed to do by using all of this energy in terms of research and practice, at that time we achieved the highest ranking for our teacher education programs of all the universities in England. which I was particularly proud of. Now, as you'll know, I'm at the UCL Institute of Education, where I moved in at the beginning of 2001. And for a while, I was head of arts and humanities, also head of primary and childhood education. Throughout the last 2 decades, I am the established chair, as it's called, and professor of music education. So we've worked on fostering individual and team research, more publications, both academic and professional. We felt it was and is important to build networks with music education stakeholders. That's both the commercial world, people in the music industry, maybe orchestras, concert halls, but also people within the school system. We've established a culture of external research awards. For example, I noted as part of my preparations for this talk for you that in the 20 years since I've been there, working with colleagues, both national and international, I've raised over £5 million for 55 research, externally funded research awards over those 20 years. Seems a lot when you look back at it now. But it's being part of a culture where research and practice have to be interwoven. Because if the universities don't do the research, lead the research and support research amongst, for example, our teacher colleagues and other partner organizations, then it's difficult to see how we can recognize and establish our mission to realize our vision. We want development in music and through music in order that the world becomes a better place. So my conclusions, we always need to develop a clear vision. What kind of world do we want to live in? What might that look like? What are the success criteria? How might we recognize those? We need to develop a clear mission to achieve the vision. So we need to find a way of action now and action in the near future as we move towards the vision that we want. We have to develop partnerships with key stakeholders, whoever they are. But that means then we're not working on our own. We're working with other people. We're negotiating with other people. And we're taking into account their needs as we develop our own mission to their vision. And we try to ensure that policy and practice are always grounded in evidence, including research, whether it's basic research into investigating something that we don't quite understand, or applied research in which we're looking at something that's already known, but we're thinking about how we can get some impact out of this. We've got the basic research, but how might that change practice on the ground? So, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for this invitation and this opportunity to reflect. There's just some images there of me being a father, new father again over the last 9 years. I've got a ResearchGate profile online. That's my email address. And also you can find out more about the International Music Education Research Center, also by just Google IMA. I'll make sure that the conference organizers have a PDF of the slides, so you can actually look at some of those things I've been chatting about if you're interested in the details in your own time. So once again, thank you very much again for this opportunity to be part of your wonderful anniversary symposium. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Graham. Thank you very much for your great words, your great experience, this fascinating research about music, health, the brain, and all the benefits of engaging with music. Eu agradeci, então, ao professor pela palestra e vou passar agora alguns comentários e perguntas que foram enviadas aqui no chat. Professor, a lot of people has sent you some greetings, people that studied with you, like Luciana Hammond, people that was with you in different occasions, like ISME events. They are so happy to hear from you, to be with you again. And we have some questions and some comments for you. The first question is from Professor Cláudia Bellocchio from the south of Brazil. We are very happy because we are online and many people from all the parts of Brazil and also from other countries in Latin America and even the world can be with us today. So Professor Cláudia Bellocchio said that this was a wonderful speech. And she asks you how these studies are influencing public policies for music education in schools in your country or in other countries that you have some notice to help us to do the same here.
Well, I'm going to speak in English and someone will translate, yes?
Yes, I will translate to them.
Good, thank you. I'm sorry that in the presentation I've been a little bit rough in my voice, but I'm just getting over COVID, so it's all been a bit wheezy, you know, so my apologies for that.
Okay,
I think that...
Let me translate this.
Yes,
o professor pede desculpas porque na apresentação dele ele estava um pouco rouco. Ele está se recuperando da Covid-19. É por isso também que a gente teve pouquinho tempo para colocar as legendas e aí a gente pede desculpa por alguma falha. Okay.
So one of the ways that we've been trying to influence what goes on in schools is that you have to work with politicians and you have to work with local politicians as well as national politicians. And one of the ways that you come to their notice is through your publications. And so we've tried to do research, publish research, which is both if you basic research, things that we're interested in, but also things that other people are interested in. So in the UK, lots of the arts organizations are funded by government. But that funding, they have to demonstrate value for money. And so they ask researchers like me and my team to help them evaluate the effectiveness of what they're doing so that they can get more money from the government. And that brings then the government, brings us to the notice of the government. And we then have the facility to begin to change policy. That's the first thing. I'll let you translate that. I've got one other point.
Ok. O professor diz que nós precisamos trabalhar com os políticos, tanto localmente quanto num nível nacional. E nós influenciamos a política com as nossas publicações, fazendo pesquisas. E fazendo com que os resultados das nossas pesquisas possam chegar até esses políticos. Pesquisas que são tanto feitas a partir dos nossos interesses, pesquisa básica, mas pesquisas também que atendam aos interesses dos outros, ou seja, que respondam a algumas questões de outras pessoas. Que na Inglaterra, as associações de arte são financiadas pelo governo, e o governo Então, eles devolvem para o governo respostas com as pesquisas que fazem, ou seja, um jeito de valorizar o dinheiro que o governo investe nessas associações. Então, eles procuram sempre dar retorno a esse dinheiro para conseguir mais dinheiro para ir dando prosseguimento às pesquisas e às investigações, e é nessa troca que as influências sobre as políticas públicas acontecem. Esse é o primeiro ponto. Agora ele vai falar um segundo ponto. Okay, Professor, you can go to the second point.
Okay, so as part of that, then there are two types of publication, because you're writing for different audiences. So you have to write for people involved in practice and policy, as well as for other academics. It is always an issue if we only publish in academic journals, then we are only reaching a limited, important audience. But if we want to change practice, we have to write in a different way. We have to write research summaries in a different language for people involved in policy and practice, busy people. So you need kind of research summaries. That's one thing. And the other thing I would want to say is that the other thing we try to do in higher education is to build champions. So in any given year, we have about 100 graduate students. We've got 50, 60, 70 perhaps master's students, all doing research. And we also have round about 30 doctoral students also doing research. And these, as many of my wonderful colleagues in Brazil and Latin America, these enrich the programs, but they also take those messages out and inform practice and change thinking. So publications and people.
Ok. Então, o segundo ponto é que nós precisamos fazer publicações de dois tipos para envolver diferentes públicos. O primeiro tipo, publicações para pessoas que estão envolvidas na prática da educação musical e também os políticos. E um outro tipo, a escrita mais acadêmica, as pessoas que estão envolvidas no campo da pesquisa. E nós temos nos dedicado somente a escrever para os acadêmicos, a escrever para o campo científico. Então, nós estamos alcançando apenas parte do público em potencial. E nós precisamos, então, aprender a escrever em diferentes formas, com diferentes linguagens, para a gente poder alcançar as pessoas que estão na prática, as pessoas que estão fazendo as políticas públicas. Então, escrever formas de resumos das nossas pesquisas e torná-los mais acessíveis ao público, algo que a gente vê no Brasil aqui como a popularização dos nossos resultados científicos, a popularização da ciência. Tem uma série de questões envolvendo isso. E a outra coisa é construir essa comunidade, né, de pesquisadores e de pessoas atuantes na educação musical no ensino superior. Então, ele falou, se eu não perdi direito os números, cerca de 100 professores de música se graduando todos os anos, 57 pessoas envolvidas no mestrado, 30 doutores, inclusive colegas do Brasil, da América Latina. Então, enriquecendo os programas com a sua prática, e ele insiste, então, que nós precisamos publicar, nós precisamos tornar esses resultados acessíveis ao público mais amplo. Ok, Professor. We have now, do you want to speak something more, or can we?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Perguntei para ele se ele gostaria de falar alguma coisa a mais, ou se nós poderíamos passar para a próxima pergunta. Eu vou passar para um comentário. That's a comment, Professor, from Professor João Walter, that is from the northeast part of Brazil. It's just a comment if you want to comment also. He says that it seems important to him, the process of sensibilization of colleagues, teachers from higher education to the needs of reconfiguration of what we understand as music education, as music formation. What do you think about this? How is this situation in England? Here in Brazil, we are discussing a lot on the colonial thoughts, as you said in your lecture, about our culture, about our diversity, and we need to rethink what we are doing as music education and to look at our own practices here in Brazil.
Well, I suppose my comment is that we recognize there are many different musics. So it's not music singular, it's musics plural. And we're also, through the world of technology, we are aware that children and young people are completely connected to an online world where they are coming across different kinds of music all the time. They hear music in the car, they hear music at home, they have music in the cinema with these wonderful big American blockbusters, but they also may hear music in the local community and in those local communities. And somehow, as music educators, we have to enable children to experience different kinds of musics, to have a broad perspective. We can't do them all, but we try to make sure that children have this opportunity to experience, talk about, comment on, and perhaps draw on those particular ideas. So, for example, I'll just give you one example. I can remember when I was closely involved in teacher education, working with some what were second-year students in a very poor area, a big city in the west of England. And the school was interested in musics from different cultures. And so we showed the children, the students and I showed the children a gamelan and how the gamelan was being used. And then we gave them materials that they could actually begin to compose and explore like the gamelan. And this was just giving, for me, it's that word again, agency. It's enabling children to learn by acting on the world, give them a voice, give them a sense of agency with the materials. So we don't do music to them, we do music with them. And we draw on all of those wonderful musicians in the community. We don't have to know all musics, but we have to bring the musics in, teacher education and into the schools.
Thank you. I will try to translate all. Então, o professor disse que nós precisamos, né, pensar, sim, que nós temos músicas no plural e não música no singular, que as nossas crianças e jovens, elas estão envolvidas, imersas no mundo de tecnologia, conectadas com esse mundo online, e eles têm acesso a diferentes músicas a todo tempo, no carro, no cinema, nos filmes americanos, nas comunidades locais, e que, de alguma forma, nós, como professores de música, nós precisamos ajudar essas crianças a experienciar diferentes músicas, né? A dar a elas a oportunidade de vivenciar essas práticas, de falar sobre essas práticas, de comentar sobre essas práticas, de participar dessas práticas. E ele deu um exemplo de quando estava atuando na formação de professores para o ensino médio, de uma zona carente lá da Inglaterra, e a escola estava interessada em músicas de diferentes países. Então, ele levou o gamelão e ele deu para os jovens materiais para que eles pudessem compor e explorar o gamelão, a forma, né, de fazer música do gamelão. Então, que nós precisamos permitir que os jovens tenham agência, ou seja, permitir ouvir a voz deles e permitir que eles tenham uma voz musical ali, né? Que eles possam agir sobre os materiais e não fazer música para eles, mas fazer música com eles, que eles possam fazer música, levar essas diferentes oportunidades. É muito difícil o professor de música saber todas as músicas, mas que a gente deve levar diferentes músicas e experienciar essas diferentes músicas com os estudantes. Eu tô tentando falar um pouco lento para ajudar o Bruno na tradução para as libras. I just talked that I'm trying to speak a little bit slower to help him with the hand signs to people. But you can speak on your way. So thank you again, Professor. We have another comment here from Professor Vivian Agnolo Madaloso from the south of Brazil again. She says that she's very sad because though all this movement, research, the results upon the benefits of music, the music educating teachers programs are with a low rate of people getting in those courses. So she works in a course in the south of Brazil that is closing its doors. Oh. So she asks, how can we work with other colleagues to music teaching education programs be more valorized, especially in a government like ours? I don't know if you are aware of our problems in our politics at the moment, but it's not just music, but teaching, education is not valorized in our government. And music is so a low status inside this already low status that is education. What do you think about this? And Magali Kleber is talking also in this way that it's important to share with our shadow times and hear your words to stimulate people, because what our government does is really getting people so down and with no energy to struggle, to fight, to have music education again being valorized and being at all schools.
Well, one of the reasons that I mentioned about the wider benefits of music is because we have to convince politicians about the benefit of music. And one of the things we know that they're interested in is that they're interested in children's attainment. They're interested in their language development, their reading, their mathematics. They're interested in their mental health, their physical health. And if by providing them with evidence that music is multi-sited in the brain, and therefore that if you do music, other things happen. So it's a win-win, win-win-win situation, yeah? And it's cheap because you have to do these other subjects anyway. But if you do them through music, you enrich them, you make them more fun, and you actually embed the learning much more in the brain by drawing on many different parts of the brain. So the learning is much deeper, richer, more useful. So that's why I talk about the wider benefits. It's for that political agenda, yeah? And we just need to keep saying that. We need you and your colleagues to publish things to do with policy and practice that draw on this wide literature, but make it available in Portuguese. I'm very lucky that I work in England and I speak English, and lots of the world's research is published in English. But in Europe, we have wonderful research that's published in Portugal, in Spain, in Germany. And if we're not careful, it will never get translated. It won't go outside that border. So somehow we need to draw on the evidence base. But if I do music, I do other things happen. And in my experience in England, this tends to release money. This tends to change government and school policy. That's why I gave you the example of the school in the north of England, a very poor school, a school with lots of children with different languages, a school that has a large Muslim community that don't usually are associated with music. But this black head teacher said, we're all going to do music and we're going to do lots of it. And suddenly the school is transformed. Wow.
Thank you.
So we need champions.
Yes.
Brazilian champions, that's what we need.
Então, o professor diz que ele dedicou uma parte significativa da fala dele para esses benefícios mais amplos da música, para nos ajudar a convencer os políticos sobre tudo que a música pode fazer. Nós sabemos que o interesse desses políticos está nesses resultados da criança ligados à alfabetização, né, às habilidades de leitura, matemática, saúde mental, saúde física. Então, que nós precisamos, com as nossas publicações e publicações acessíveis a esses políticos, dar essas evidências, mostrar os resultados desses estudos que comprovam esses benefícios da música para todas as áreas da vida humana. Quando se faz música, a música promove uma multiatividade cerebral, ela envolve todo o cérebro na sua atividade. E, de certa forma, isso acaba sendo barato, porque se você fizer música, você auxilia e fortalece e aprofunda e torna a aprendizagem mais significativa, você fortalece diferentes áreas do cérebro. E essa é uma agenda política, e nós precisamos aprender a conversar e aproveitar essa agenda política. Precisamos, então, ele reforça, de colegas publicando, deixando disponível em português, porque ele diz que tem muita sorte de morar na Inglaterra e muitas pesquisas serem em inglês, Mas há pesquisas em Portugal, na Espanha, na Alemanha, em muitos países da Europa, e mesmo algumas poucas em português. Nós precisamos traduzir esses textos, nós precisamos compartilhar intensivamente essas evidências e mostrar que quando fazemos música, outras coisas acontecem. E isso atrai dinheiro, dinheiro para fazermos pesquisas, dinheiro para abrirmos cursos, isso atrai aqueles que fazem política. Então, ele deu o exemplo da escola numa zona carente de Londres, a escola que ele falou na palestra, que era uma escola com muitas reprovações, né? E ela resolveu se organizar em torno da música, e a escola se transformou. Então, nós precisamos de campeões brasileiros, para mostrar esses resultados para os políticos. Okay, Professor, we have another one from Professor Luis Ricardo Queiroz, that is the last president of ABEM. He says, Graham, thank you so much for your fantastic lecture and congratulations on your inspiring work. You highlighted the power and transformative and educational potential of music and music based on their cognitive and brain development power. How do you think we can incorporate this power to strengthen human nature, life, quality, society, culture, and education from our classes and other music education activities? And how can we use music education to combat inequalities, exclusions, and other evils in the world today?
Wow. Yeah, big question. Yes. Well, I suppose that you have to see yourself on a journey. So ABEM is having this 25th anniversary Congress. Yeah. So where did you come from? Where are you going? What is that vision? What are the things that what are the big things you're aiming for? But are there what the management people call small wins or quick wins? Are there small things we can do already to begin to bring about changes? And certainly my own experience in England is that with generalist primary school teachers, the government gives them a very strong focus on core subjects, English, mathematics, science, perhaps technology, but not music. So we have to find some way of working with the teaching force to enable them to use music with the things that they feel comfortable with. They have to teach reading. They have to teach basic number work. So how can we as musicians help them, giving them resources? Are these online resources? How can we infiltrate those other organizations? So, for example, in England, we have the British Educational Research Association, BERA, and it publishes a journal, the British Education Research Journal. And in the last 20 years, there have probably been 3 articles, only 3, that relate to the arts. Everything else is to do with everything else in education. So the first, I suppose, people we have to educate are the people we work with in the universities, the people elsewhere in the faculty of education who doesn't understand what the arts is or the importance of the arts. Although they will consume the arts, they will go to the cinema, they will dance, they will make music, they will buy music, they will go to concerts. But that's in a private world where we need to convince our academic colleagues about the importance of music. And I think at the moment, in education and in health, we can talk about the benefits of music and the arts for health. So we can pick up all of those people in the clinical medical world, as well as the people in education who are interested in trying to improve the educational system. Well, please do not send out teachers who only know about part of the curriculum. And it's up to us to explore, as I said, in that applied research way, how is it possible to teach mathematics through music, to teach science through music, to teach English or geography or history? It is possible because we've had projects doing that. But that only comes about when you put the people together. So when I was head of the Department of Primary and Early Childhood, I had to get these people together in the same room. This is a mathematician, this is a scientist, this is the musician. Talk to each other. How can we develop and enrich what we're doing? How can we bring mathematics into our music? How can we bring music into our mathematics?
Ok, thank you. Então, o professor disse que é uma questão, né, ampla, grande, mas que nós precisamos nos encontrar nessa jornada, nesse caminho. Que nós estamos aqui comemorando o nosso aniversário de 30 anos, nesse 25º Congresso, e precisamos nos perguntar de onde viemos, para onde estamos indo, quais são as nossas metas, que grandes coisas nós queremos fazer, mas também nos atentar para as pequenas coisas que nós podemos fazer, para as pequenas vitórias, para começar a mudança. Então, ele conta de uma experiência na Inglaterra, com professores da escola, onde o governo, como acontece aqui também, tem o foco em inglês, no nosso caso, português, matemática, ciências, mas o foco não está na música. Então, nós precisamos trabalhar com esses professores para usar a música naquilo que eles sabem fazer. Então, começar a nos infiltrar na escola dessa forma. Como que nós podemos ajudar esses professores a ensinar aquilo que eles sabem? Como que nós podemos oferecer recursos? Então, ele deu um exemplo sobre a Associação de Educação, de Pesquisa em Educação, na Inglaterra. Eles têm uma revista, e nos últimos 20 anos, apenas 3 artigos se dedicavam às artes, né? E todos os outros, ao longo de todos esses anos, eram sobre outras questões. Então, isso é sério. Nós precisamos educar os nossos colegas, né? Nós precisamos ir para além dos nossos cursos e mesmo das faculdades de educação. Mas, na minha experiência pessoal, a gente também tem um trabalho a fazer na própria faculdade de educação. Todos esses professores, eles consomem arte, eles vão para o cinema, eles consomem música, eles ouvem música, mas de uma forma privada, individual. Nós precisamos convencer essas pessoas da importância da música, dos benefícios da música, então os benefícios para a saúde. Então, convencer os médicos e os professores, né? Para a gente não ficar só com professores que ensinam parte do currículo, né? Segmentar tudo isso e agindo sozinhos. Mostrar para os outros professores como que é possível ensinar as suas disciplinas usando música. E como que a música, ao trabalharmos música, nós contribuímos para as suas disciplinas. Que nós precisamos colocar as pessoas juntas, para pensar juntas. Quando ele foi diretor da Faculdade de Educação, ele colocava todo mundo na mesma sala e dizia, conversem, né? Como que nós podemos fazer algo juntos? Ou seja, como que podemos usar a música para ajudar nas suas disciplinas, como que as suas disciplinas contribuem para a música e assim por diante. Thank you, Professor Luis Ricardo. Thanks you for your answer. We have some comments here that our science minister has cut a lot of budget for science. So it's not just in education, we are having a lot of problems in science as well. And we need to be more present in these organizations, in presenting our research projects to the Ministry of Science and so forth. Professor Ana Lúcia Gaborim from the center west of Brazil is thanking you. It's always a pleasure hearing you. A lot of people thanking you a lot. Luis Ricardo said your voice is excellent. There's no problem in teacher, that you inspire us with all things that you have done and that you said. I'm just looking for the comments here. If there's some more questions. Professor Magali Kleber said, great speech, Professor Graham, thank you so much. It's always important learning experience to be with you. Other people in Brazil are commenting that their courses are also closing their doors. So the moment is really critical. Here, private schools are closing their doors. Let me see. Let's speak in Portuguese to people. Estou só fazendo os comentários que vocês fizeram para o professor Graham, dizendo dos cursos que estão fechando, dos cortes no Ministério da Educação. People are saying also that your words turn them to reflect how our universities are involved with the government in a local way and in a national way. If we are just inside our walls, and how can we talk to these? So they are inspiring. I hope it will be a great movement of action in Brazil from experience. Eu disse que a professora Edneiran comentou aqui dessa discussão paralela que tem acontecido e que ela pergunta, né, como que as nossas universidades estão envolvidas com o governo municipal e estadual, além dos estágios, né, como que nós estamos nos tornando presentes nesse mundo. Other people are also talking about to decolonize our writing as well, so to make it more accessible to all kinds of people. We have a program of the government before this government to popularize science. So they are putting people to write in more accessible ways to public, to people understand more our work. And so pandemic was so good to this, because we are at internet, we are showing the results of our research, and so it's a great thing. Disse para o professor que tem, né, projetos do governo de popularização da ciência para tornar os nossos resultados mais acessíveis, mas a gente ainda precisa crescer, né, dentro dessa situação. Let me see, Professor, if you have some more questions here. There are some comments on your speech about we really need to talk our colleagues at the university to show them the benefits of music, and Professor Gerardo Viana is from the northeast of Brazil, from Ceará, and he's asking how can we make our colleagues conscient to the benefits of music in a context that just European music is valorized, is worth to work. It's really difficult to be in this place.
Yeah. Well, I suppose my answer to that would be that wherever you are, there are a variety of musics, whether these are popular music, traditional musics, as well as, if you like, classical musics, Western or other types of classical music. And I think we have a moral responsibility to bring different kinds of musics to these children. And this may mean that you organize a program in your university and you bring the children in. So it's a special event. It may be that you also send the musicians into the schools to work with the children and then bring them all in. So you suddenly, in your university, you have a wonderful musical celebration from children from a variety of different schools with a variety of different kinds of musics. And you invite the politicians, you invite the university leaders, you invite your academic colleagues. And so you make music as a celebration. One of the ways that I've done this in the past with colleagues is in between the music, we've had a few slides about the wider benefits of music. Yeah? So we bring in the science. This is the science about music and the wider benefit. Now sit and listen to some music. Watch some children doing some music. Now here's some more science. Now, and so on. And so you create this event which is both musical and political.
Great. O professor disse que aonde quer que estejamos, existe uma grande variedade de músicas e que nós temos uma responsabilidade moral de trazer essa variedade de músicas para as crianças. Então, ele sugere ações de celebrações musicais, onde nós possamos trazer as crianças para a universidade, também levar alunos e professores para as escolas para trabalhar música, para fazer música. Mas quando fizermos esses eventos na universidade, convidarmos os líderes da universidade, convidarmos os políticos, convidarmos os nossos colegas, e entre uma música e outra desse momento de celebração, colocar alguns slides sobre os benefícios da música, e assim ir cultivando a cabeça dessas pessoas para esses momentos. Então, agora, depois que você falou dos benefícios, ouve, então, um pouco de música, ouve um pouco dessas crianças fazendo música. Very good, teacher.
Can I add one other comment?
Yes, please.
Right. In all of the research on practice in schools, that the research is telling us that there isn't enough creativity. There isn't enough creative music making. Whatever culture we go in, there's too much emphasis on reproducing music. Nothing wrong with that, because children need to experience different kinds of music, but they need an opportunity to be able to make sense of that by making their own music, by drawing on the things that we're putting in for them. So it's really important that creativity, that improvisation is part of a music program at every level, for every age. This way, people get inside music, and music becomes a real benefit.
Ok. Então, ele quis fazer um outro comentário, que a pesquisa sobre práticas nas escolas mostram que não há muita criatividade no fazer musical, que há muita ênfase em reproduzir música. Não há problemas em reproduzir música, mas que nós precisamos de dar oportunidade para as crianças, para os jovens, que eles possam fazer a própria música. Então, ele reforça a importância da criatividade em qualquer idade, e que nós podemos fazer isso com música, né? Então, que essa é uma outra questão para a gente pensar. Okay, I'm searching. There's a lot of comments here on the chat. I'm trying to read it fastly. And Professor Gerardo comment on your answer that sometimes he has the feeling that we are always coming back to beginning. We need to justify the importance of music, the importance of art in a world that devalorize a knowledge that is not linked to the market, to capitalism. So yes. We need to work hard on these ideas.
And that is global. Everybody is global. All right.
Eu estava comentando a fala do professor Gerardo, né, que parece que estamos sempre voltando ao início dessa necessidade de estarmos justificando música e arte o tempo todo, e ele disse que isso é global, né, que isso acontece em todo mundo. Ok. We have here a lot of people thanking you so much for your presence with us, even it was virtual. We have a lot of parallel talk here in chat, people discussing how can we do different things, how can we be different at our universities. It's some of the benefits of being online, and people can talk silently, but at the same time with us. So, Professor, I forgot to say that you shared with us your PDF slides. I will talk to them now, and then I come back to say you goodbye, and do you have your last words for us? Just a minute. Eu me esqueci de dizer, pessoal, que o professor Graham me mandou o PDF dos slides. Ele disse isso, né, na apresentação. O Mário vai colocar o link aqui no chat para que vocês possam fazer o download dos slides que ele apresentou. Lá tem referências, caso vocês queiram procurar esses estudos para iniciar esse movimento aí na sua localidade, de convencer as pessoas dos benefícios da música, vocês podem encontrar lá. Lá também tem o e-mail dele e vocês podem entrar em contato com ele. Tá aqui, o Mário acabou de colocar o link. E isso é muito interessante. Eu vi um comentário do Tiago dessa questão de sermos todos ABEM, é algo que eu venho repetindo muito ao longo desses últimos anos. A diretoria, nós não conseguimos estar em todas as cidades do Brasil para fazer essa defesa da música. Então, nós precisamos muito da ação de cada um de vocês nas suas localidades. Nós estamos à disposição para ajudá-los, para estar com vocês nessa luta, mas nós precisamos que cada um de vocês haja nas suas cidades e estamos à disposição, como eu falei, para ajudar nessa luta. I said to them, Professor, that I've been talking a lot in these years that I'm acting as president of ABEM, that ABEM cannot be everywhere, but me as the president, but ABEM is everyone that is part of this association. So yes, we can be everywhere because we have a lot of people all around our country. So we need everyone to be present, to be with the local politicians, and that we are at their disposal to support and to be side by side in this struggle for music education. It's so important to be aware that every one of us is part of this association, is part of this collective of people, and then we can have a really great movement or a longer revolution, as Raymond Williams said to us. So thank you a lot again, Professor Graham. I know that we gave you some work to record your presentation, but it was really great. People liked it a lot, and it's really so inspiring to think about our reality. And you also helped us to think about to make it clear what is our vision and what will be our mission for the last years. Thank you.
And to remember that individuals make a difference. Yeah, each person can make a difference. Even no matter how small, all of those little bits add up. Yeah. So each little step is part of your journey. So enjoy it. Celebrate all these little steps. Join them up. Everybody can make a difference.
Yes, I will translate this. O professor, eu comentei com ele, né, sobre aquilo que eu acabei de dizer, de que nós todos somos ABEM e de que cada um pode fazer a sua revolução. E ele reforçou essa ideia de que cada indivíduo faz a diferença, que nós precisamos celebrar cada pequeno passo, que nós precisamos celebrar a nossa caminhada, a nossa jornada, e lembrar sempre de que cada um de nós pode sim fazer a diferença. So,
it's been a real pleasure. Thank you ever so much. I'm really delighted to be part of this, and I wish you every success in the future. So well done.
Thank you very much, Professor Graham. Ele agradece por estar aqui, ficou realmente muito feliz de estar conosco, de poder conversar um pouco conosco e deseja muito sucesso para a associação nos anos que virão. So, thank you and goodbye. Have a great day. Have a great week, and that 2022 we will be together in this celebration of Sempre anniversary. It's really important to us, all the activities that you are making at your association. We are very happy, and we hope to celebrate with you.
Thank you. Well done.
Thanks a lot. Então, pessoal, muito obrigado pela presença de vocês nesse momento inicial da abertura, com essa brilhante conferência de abertura com o professor Graham Welch. Eu convido todos para que vocês participem da programação, com a programação de apresentações musicais que nós teremos. Os links estão todos na programação. O Mário pode deixar o link aqui para a programação para vocês. À tarde, às 3 horas da tarde, nós teremos uma mesa com o professor Luiz Ricardo Queiroz e com o professor Reinaldo Fleury, da Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina, mediado pela professora Edneira Maciel, onde nós trataremos de políticas de Estado e políticas de governo e as suas relações com a educação musical. Muito obrigado, tenham todos um ótimo dia e nos vemos agora de tarde.